निरञ्जनं नित्यमनन्तरूपं भक्तानुकम्पा धृतविग्रहं वै ईशावतारं परमीशमिद्यं तं रामकृष्णं शिरसा नमामः।
Thank you, Swamiji. I request at this time Swami ATMAGYANANANDA ji to come and speak, please.
Swami Sugitanandaji Maharaj, all my dear revered senior brothers and sisters and all dear friends, I've been asked to speak a little bit about how I came to Vedanta, and it's actually quite a long and dramatic story which I'll try to compress into a few short minutes. I was a philosophy student in college, studied Western philosophy, but had some interest in Indian philosophy, so I decided to take a trip to India. I landed in India in 1972, in April, just after the war. The border had just opened. And I went to a bookstore. First book I bought was a Bhagavad Gita. And by chance, it was the edition that was published by the Ramakrishna Order at Dvaita Ashrama, translated by Swami Swarupananda, who was Swami Vivekananda's hand-picked disciple to translate the Bhagavad Gita. So I read Gita, and I fell in love with the book, read it over and over again. On the dust cover of the book, on the inside, was a quotation. And that quotation said, "The Gita is a bouquet made up of the choicest flowers of the Upanishads." And then underneath it said, "Swami Vivekananda." This was a quote from Swamiji, the first time I saw his name. Then, of course, reading the book over and over and traveling, the dust jacket got lost somewhere. Somehow the name stuck in my head. And a few months later, this was July 22nd, 1972, my 24th birthday, I decided to present myself with a birthday present. I was very austere in those days. I wouldn't spend any money on myself, so I went into a bookstore looking for the least expensive book I could find. And I remember looking on the bottom shelf. I can just picture exactly where it was, even today. A small book called The Teachings of Swami Vivekananda. And I saw that, and it clicked. That was the name that I remembered from the dust jacket from the Gita that I had bought. So I purchased that book. I believe it was 5 rupees at the time. And I went back and I read it, and I was just beside myself. I couldn't put the book down. I read it over and over again. There was a short introduction at the beginning about the life of Swamiji and how he met Sri Ramakrishna. And this desire formed in my mind, let me go to Calcutta. So I eventually went to Calcutta. And by chance, I met a family of devotees. They invited me for lunch one day, then they invited me to stay with them. So I lived in their home, a very lovely family. This was in a part of Calcutta called Bhawanipur, southern portion of Calcutta. So I was with them for some time, and I told them I had a great desire to go to Bellarmठ and Dakshineshwar, these two places. Now, the son of the family, he was about 10 years older than I was. He also liked to roam about. As I say, I was very austere in those days. I used to go barefoot, even wherever I went, would walk everywhere. So the two of us decided, from Southern California, we'll go barefoot, walking all the way to Bellarmঠ. Having no idea how far it was. Some of you may realize, a very hot day in October, just at Durga Puja time. So we walked and walked and walked over the Howard Bridge, Grand Trunk Road, with all the gravel and everything, and completely exhausted, and reached the main gate at Bellarmঠ. It was closed. So I was tremendously disappointed. I saw a lot of people. I said, let me walk to the front gate and see what the story is. So as I'm walking to the gatekeeper is walking from the other side. We met at exactly the same time, and he opened the gate. As if he was waiting for me. Of course, it was just coincidence. It happened to be 4 o'clock when we got there. It wasn't that he was waiting for me. So the two of us went. First thing we did, of course, we went to Ganga and took a bath. We were exhausted, visited all of the temples, and just as the sun was going down, we took the little ferry boat across the Ganges to the Dakshineshwar Kali temple. And many of you know from reading the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, when M went for the first time, he talks about how all the bells and conches, everything is going on at the time of Arati. It was the same thing. We reached there just that time. Walked in Sri Ramakrishna's room, and I felt like I had reached heaven. It was just such a transforming experience. Something that, of course, I'll never forget. And the interesting thing is that we didn't go back the other way. We went back from the Calcutta side all the way back. So I feel that after I crossed into Bellarmine premises that day, I never left. So this is my story, and to me it's the grace of Swamiji, and I still have that small book that I keep with me in my little shrine in my room, and all I can say is that it's a tremendous blessing, and that it gives some idea of the tremendous power of the words of Swami Vivekananda, that power to transform.
Thank you, Swami. At this time, I request Swami Pravaraikamajrananda to come and say.
Revered Swami Suhitanandaji Maharaj, my elder brothers and sisters, my fellow brothers and sisters, and friends. It is a tremendous privilege to be here. This place has graced the entire state. And I can tell, as we can all tell, that it was built with such love and dedication. And that can be felt throughout every pore of this building. You know, obviously I was not born into this tradition. My mother came from a Lutheran family, my father from a Baptist family. They were both disaffected with their tradition, but they didn't know what else to do. And we sort of came all together to the same time, to Vedanta. And what we found is this tremendous freedom. We heard the message of Swami Vivekananda and we were all taken by it. That we could discover who we really were. That we finally could belong to a religion that didn't tell us that we were going to go to hell. That we didn't belong to a tradition now that didn't say what you had to do at every step. That we could revere, that we could revere God with love. That we could use our minds to find God, that we could use our own self-effort to find God. To hear that the deepest part of ourselves was divine. Do you have any idea what a tremendous gift that is? To come from a different tradition where you're told, oh, maybe by the grace of God you'll get out of it, you'll go to heaven. And instead to go to a tradition which says the deepest part of you is absolutely pure, divine, and free. What a grace, what a joy. I never forget to honor this great tradition from this Hindu tradition. I realize what a privilege it is to come into that. I hope you do too. I hope you realize. I hope you never forget. There are some people who do not have religious freedom. And this is the greatness of Swami Vivekananda, to bring the message to this country. This country was formed with the idea of freedom. And because of that, Vedanta will have to take root here, and it will stay here forever. This is the natural way it will be. What a great, great tradition we all belong to. What an honor. And all of us have the responsibility of bearing that on our shoulders, because every one of us are manifestations of this great tradition. All of us are like little lights bringing Vedanta and the Hindu tradition to the world. All of us have that responsibility of manifesting that as best we can. I'm so grateful to be here and to be with all of you because all of you have been an inspiration. Thank you very much.